All right, let's jump right into this. You've got this really clear political promise on one side. America first, a policy that's all about staying out of other countries' problems. But then, on the other hand, you have one of the biggest arms deals we've seen in a long, long time. So today, we're going to try to get to the bottom of that massive contradiction. I mean, it's a simple message, right? And a powerful one. It really clicked with a lot of people. The whole idea was pretty straightforward. No more of these endless deployments, no more American lives on the line for someone else's fight. A real clean break from how things used to be done. But as you know, policy is almost never that simple.
And yeah, this is where things start to get a little complicated. Because right there, next to that promise of no more wars, you see this absolutely staggering number, $11.1 billion. That is the price tag on the single largest weapons package ever approved for Taiwan.
So that really brings us to the big question we're tackling here. How can a policy that's supposed to be about non-intervention exist at the same time as a historic arms sale with huge geopolitical consequences? It's a puzzle for sure, and we're going to try and put the pieces together. Okay, first up, what $11 billion buys. So let's get into the specifics. What exactly does that kind of money get you? Because this isn't just some symbolic gesture or a routine sale. We are talking about serious, high-impact military hardware that's really designed for one particular scenario.
Now, what's so interesting here isn't just the price tag, it's the kind of equipment we're talking about. You've got long-range rockets, advanced missile platforms, precision artillery, sophisticated drones. Look, these are not weapons for a parade. They are specifically designed for one thing and one thing only: to make a potential invasion so incredibly difficult, so bloody, and so expensive that an attacker would have to seriously think twice.
And this, well, it leads to a really fundamental question about what neutrality even means anymore. You know, when you provide the tools to completely change the military balance in a region, have you already picked a side? Just, without putting your own soldiers on the front lines. Section 2, the theory of deterrence. So what's the official reason for a move like this? The strategic justification? Well, it all comes down to a classic, and let's be honest, often controversial concept: deterrence. The basic idea is that you can actually prevent a war by preparing for one. Let's break down how that's supposed to work. At its core, the idea is pretty simple. You build up your defenses, or in this case, you help an ally build up theirs, to the point where a potential attacker looks at the situation and just decides, you know what, it's not worth the price. The whole goal is to stop a war from ever starting by making the cost of aggression impossibly high. So the thinking goes like this, in 3 steps. First, you provide the arms. Second, that raises the potential cost of any attack. We're talking cost in lives, in equipment, in resources. And third, the hope is that this super high cost will be enough to stop the attack from ever happening at all. But here's the thing, and it's the razor's edge of this whole strategy. It all operates on this incredibly fine line of calculation and psychology. It completely depends on the other side making what you see as a rational decision to just back down. And, well, as history has shown us again and again, that is a massive, massive gamble. Section 3, a line in the sand. So this gets us to a really crucial point, that murky, blurred line between simply providing weapons and actually participating in a conflict. Legally, selling arms is not an act of war. But strategically, well, it can be the move that sets the entire board for a war to come. So when does a sale become something more? And this slide just lays out the central debate perfectly. On one hand, supporters of the deal argue it's the ultimate peacemaking tool. You make an invasion simply unthinkable. But on the other hand, critics see the exact opposite. They say that flooding a region with advanced weaponry doesn't prevent war. It just raises the stakes and makes the path to conflict seem almost normal. And this right here is the moment of truth for the entire strategy. Because if the other side isn't deterred, if they miscalculate, or if they just decide to attack anyway, that carefully drawn line between selling weapons and fighting a war, it just vanishes in an instant. It's a real paradox, isn't it? Every single step you take in the name of preventing a conflict, more weapons, more military drills, tougher talk, it looks identical to the steps you'd take to prepare for one. And that can create a really dangerous cycle where everyone keeps raising the stakes. Which brings us to our last section, peace or postponement. And this brings us full circle, right back to that original idea of America first. How does this high-stakes game of deterrence, which looks so much like getting ready for a fight, actually fit into a worldview that's supposed to be all about avoiding foreign entanglements?
This slide really gets to the heart of the change. See, America First was never really about total isolation. It was about controlling the cost. The old way of intervening meant American soldiers, boots on the ground. This new model is different. It's about providing American weapons, weapons on the ground, so that somebody else can do the fighting.
So when you look at it like that, the goal isn't necessarily to avoid a conflict completely. It's to avoid direct American casualties and costs. The objective changes from preventing a war to transferring the risk. You let someone else take the hits using your hardware.
And that forces us to ask a much tougher question, doesn't it? Is this policy really about keeping the peace, or is it about creating just enough distance so that you can avoid taking responsibility if or when the deterrent strategy fails and a conflict actually breaks out?
And that's really the thought we want to leave you with. This massive arms deal isn't a contradiction of America First. It's a very specific, modern interpretation of it. It's a bet that overwhelming strength prevents war, even when history warns us that sometimes a show of strength just invites a challenge. So the question isn't just about policy, it's about the end game of an arms race.